Hello, I'm Lizard Wizard, the Wizard Lizard. Welcome to another devlog for my indie game H347. H347 is a cyberpunk hacking action stealth emulator, and I plan to release it on Steam within the year. Let's talk about what's new this episode. I have an admission. I've been putting this off for way too long, but the project is only getting bigger, so let's start a Git repo and back up the game on GitHub. It turns out it's incredibly simple to set this up. Now we have infinite version history with the option to roll back all or part of the project, and a backup of all our hard work. Another bonus for later on is the ability to implement GitHub actions to automatically deploy changes to a live build of the game for playtesters. I got a little tired of looking at the poorly modeled walls, so I took another crack at it. This time with actual textures. The walls are a little taller with a decorative bevel on the bottom. I made a quick texture to sell the Matrix vibes and then clumsily applied it in Godot by changing the UV settings. That's nice, but we can do better. In Blender, you can do UV mapping and export a template. Then I create the texture for each individual surface in Sprite. This looks way nicer. One of the funnest parts of game development is having a vision in your head and slowly putting together the bits and pieces that make it a reality. We'll start with a particle 3D node. Just simple dots gravitating towards the center of a circle emitter. We'll place these on our camera 3D node like so, and then look what happens when we blow up the field of view setting. The next step involves a custom shader. I want the screen to collapse inward like a tube screen shutting off. We need a color rect inside a canvas layer node that covers the game screen. We create a new shader material on the color rect. We will sample the game's display for each pixel position to then alter. In our shader code, let's divide the screen in half by checking if the screen UV is greater or less than 0.5. Then we'll add a progress parameter that can be adjusted from 0 to 1. Now we can move the pixels towards the center by changing where we sample from as the progress changes. Here's one attempt. It took some trial and error. Eventually we got it, but I want the image to squish as it collapses. That gives us this, with some very odd side effects that I can't quite wrap my head around. We can just cover that up. If the current pixel's distance from the center is greater than half of the current remaining progress, just make it black. And for the remaining pixels, we will add the progress amount to the RGB values to make them turn white over time, which gives us this. I added laser traps. They came together really fast and I'm happy with the result. There are two main pieces, the laser shooter, which has a raycast 3D and a laser mesh, and we have a second mesh which limits the laser's movement range. In our laser script, the raycast 3D sends a custom signal anytime the collision distance changes. We respond by changing the length and positioning of the laser mesh so it stops at the collision point. We also have a signal for when the raycast collides with the player. This damages the player and starts a cooldown on the laser, so we don't immediately retrigger. In our process function, which runs every frame, we update the X position of the laser. Then, if the X value is outside the bounds of the range mesh, we either switch the laser's movement direction or reset its X position to the start of the range mesh, depending on the chosen mode. Our raycast 3D script is pretty simple. If colliding, send the hit target signal if it's the player. If it's a wall, update a variable that holds the distance to the current wall. If the newly set distance is different from the current distance, then we send the distance change signal. And now we have working lasers that damage the player, and the beam changes length depending on the level layout. I wanted to improve my ability to make complicated timings and patterns with floor traps. So for this, I made an additional container object to hold the traps. The traps themselves have an on time, an off time, and a delay. which will make the trap wait before it starts for the first time. The container object has all the same settings, plus an offset setting. The offset adds to the delay of each child node cumulatively, so you can easily chain delays to happen one after the other. Containers can hold other containers, and so complex patterns can be put together fairly simply. I also went back and added a timescale option to speed up or slow down the entire setup as needed. Trap speed could potentially scale with the heat level going up also. Here's a demonstration, making a neat waterfall-style cascade effect. Of course, that's not all we can do with our neat traps. More traps are needed, so let's make a security camera. Just a box and a detection area going back and forth. The rotation pattern is programmable with angles and timings. Iterating further, the camera now has a cool lighting effect, and snaps onto the player when you're seen. The light grows as you step away, up until you lose line of sight with the camera, giving a great visual indicator that you are still being tracked. But it's not always possible to know just from the light source, so I added this laser pointer that immediately retracts when line of sight is broken. And then the light will retract after being out of sight for a certain amount of time, giving another visual indicator that the camera is no longer looking towards your last known location. For now, the cameras only increase your heat level slowly while you're being tracked, but in the future could signal or spawn patrols, activate traps, or more. I hadn't tested my patrol navigation with doors added back in, and it was immediately problematic. The doors would seal off the navigation mesh, but when they were unlocked, the hole in the mesh would still be there. Instead of just looking it up, I figured I could just rebake the mesh anytime a door was open. It turns out there's already a solution to this, and it makes way more sense. There's even a dedicated page describing it in the Godot 4 official documentation. What is that image? Each door gets its own navigation region, which acts as a bridge from one room to the next. When the door is unlocked, the only needed change is to set the layer for the door nav region to match the nav region that the patrols have access to. I want to streamline level creation and make it as smooth as possible, so I learned how to do custom resource tool scripts. I found a great resource for this, which I've included here. Now it's very quick and easy to place and configure guards around the map. Here's a brief demonstration with 2 stationary patrols, each with different rotations and timings, and 1 path patrol. This can obviously be expanded later to allow for more complex patrol routes involving different paths, various stops, plus additional tools for linking groups of patrols for synchronization. Intricate, choreographed patrol dance routine definitely scheduled for future updates.
Alright, hold on just a second. What is going on with these overly sarcastic, negative title cards? It's just not okay to disparage yourself like that. Who's behind all of this?
You're really starting to annoy me with your disgusting compassion and gentle encouragement. Ugh.
We all have our parts to play. I know deep down you're hurting, and it's okay.
Ah, stop it! Hiss.
Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of this devlog, and thank you to everyone who has subscribed so far. 50 subscribers honestly feels monumental to me. And a huge thanks to everyone on Discord, which has already become a wholesome and fun place to hang out and discuss game development. You can join us there too. The link is down below in the description. We would love to hear what you're working on also. No more updates for this devlog, but there's more to come. Remember to always be kind and keep moving forward. I wish everyone the happiest of holidays this winter season. See you next year.
Great set, man. I love it. You got a SoundCloud or anything? Yeah, alright. That's cool. Hey, what about you? You come here a lot?